Our next guest, as you see him settling in, is a former Valley Viking and Gatorade Player of the Year in Las Vegas, Junior College Player of the Year at Dixie in 1991, ran the ball for 2 seasons at BYU, married a BYU gymnast, created 3 more BYU athletes, including quarterback Jaren Hall, maybe 4 more as we run down the family, which we will in just a little bit. A pleasure to welcome former Cougar Kalin Hall to the Wise Guys. How you doing?
Doing quite well. How are you?
Good. What do you think of Sione in that addition on the defensive line?
You were here and got to listen to him for a little bit, right?
Sione's a great guy. He's an amazing addition to the staff. His value goes much deeper than his knowledge. It goes into areas in which people will learn to love and learn to see. And the depth in recruiting and just the whole making of the man is something that, you know, the BYU fan base will truly embrace and understand how big of a signing that is for the program. So
when he's here, you know, he played at Utah, obviously long after I played at BYU, and I'm like, man, I wish I was this guy's teammate. Like you can just tell he would have been an amazing teammate, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
So,
it's great. Just a great person. Just a great person.
You listen to some guys, and Kalani has that gift, and you've had coaches in your life with that gift, and maybe you are a coach for other kids with that gift, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit, but it seems like he can get you to run through a wall, and that's different from someone just yelling at you.
Yeah, you know, honestly, in today's world, kids don't really do well with just yelling and screaming at them. I mean, you have to find other ways to motivate them. And Sione is, you know, just his personality is one that sends the message that he's someone who has your best interest in mind, and that he wants you to be able to have the maximum potential that you have come to fruition and come forward. And so with that being said, it's genuine and authentic. So it's easy for young people to play really hard for him, and it's easy for them to get more out of themselves when they know that this individual knows and knows that they have the ability, and he just wants the best for them. So
isn't it interesting? Like you and I both played for Lavelle.
Yeah,
we have that in common. We're always brothers because we played for the same father, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And Lavelle had that about him, right? Where you just like there was never any question that Lavelle cared more about you, the person and what you were going to do and what you're going to make of your life than he cared about what was going on the football field, which allowed him then to say, "Hey, Jared, I need you to do this. I need you to do that." And you're like, "Well, he cares about me, so of course I'm going to do it." Is that the hallmark of great coaches, that players know that they care? Is that the first step in being a great coach?
I think so. I think in lieu of all of the things that are going on in social media and how some kids get skewed with all of the fast-paced elements in life, I think it comes down just to the genuine nature of what people feel. And if you feel that this person genuinely cares about your well-being, then it goes beyond the surface elements that come into the sport in today's world. It goes beyond the elements in which I think young people get caught up in today. It allows you to really become vested in your future, because this individual, you can genuinely tell, cares about you and what your self-worth is to them and to yourself. And so I think it's just something that allows a player or a young man to feel comfortable and confident. So
Kalin Hall's with us on the Wise Guys, and we're going to talk about some great moments that you've had at BYU, including the showdown with Marshall Faulk. That's coming up in just a little bit.
Yeah, we're going to talk about your kids. We're going to talk about, but then we're going to finish with let's reminisce about the days, about the good old
back
days.
In the day, reminisce. I love to reminisce.
We'll do it.
Top of the headlines is with your son Jaren, who is going to be at the Combine on Saturday.
Yeah.
And this is such a big next few months for him as he gets ready for the NFL draft. So first and foremost, how's his ankle?
It's doing okay. I mean, obviously, a high ankle sprain takes a lot of time. You know, especially when you're a force guy. You know what I mean by that is he throws with twitch and emotion and power and torque, and his lower extremities are, you know, part of the things that really drive the ball down the field and allow him to the boogie and dance laterally, and so high ankle strains are not conducive to doing those type of things, effortlessly. And so he's still, healing up. Obviously it's not 100% still, but the people that know, and the individuals that have been around the game understand that process. And so he's just, he's been living in California, training for the last.
John Beck was on with us the other day.
Talking about us. John loves him and thinks his potential is just
yes,
sky high. How disappointed, because even with them knowing it and evaluating other things, he was having a phenomenal week at the Senior Bowl, and then he tweaked it, which kind of shut him down. Was he really disappointed? Because he was rolling that week.
He was. Yeah, he was upset. He's like, man, I'm putting things where I need to. The ball's flying off the hand. And bear in mind, he hadn't thrown a ball really in that type of competitive environment since the game against Stanford.
Oh, right. Wow, yeah.
Because he only had a couple of weeks really to kind of train with John prior to the Senior Bowl. And so, he was started getting into the throws, but once he started to get fatigued, and then he tweaked it, and it was like, oh man, I'm not really able to, distribute it, the rock, the ball the way I want to on time. I mean, it's not the 7-on-7 stuff. It's team stuff live where you got to come off foundation and you got to make a throw where you don't know where the throw is going to go, right? Those are the ones that can typically, come off high or low because, you don't have the balance and the ankle's not as strong as it should be. And so, but he was disappointed. But you know what? It's okay.
The good news is that he had a few days where he was pretty sound, and everybody was going, whoa. Yeah. He's looking great. And then the injury kind of took him out, but he had a chance to showcase it first before that. So that's the bright side of that, right?
Hey, and look, the metrics behind all of those things is simply this. He had 2 years of film that shows that he can make every throw in the book. He's bigger than a lot of folks thought. He's thicker.
They measure him all out. They're like, he's taller than we thought, right?
He's taller, he's thicker, and, he could get thicker if he needed to. And so I think the important things in the interviews, he had a couple of GMs that said they were the best interviews they've ever heard.
We're not surprised. So, not
a bit surprised.
And really, guys, that speaks in volumes in today's society. When you think about a quarterback who's going to be the face of your franchise, it's going to be the foundation. You don't really want to deal with things off the field, or you don't want to deal with circumstances that could be suspect, right? When in that billion-dollar industry, they really don't have time to deal with those elements.
Right. So what does Dad hear about the draft and rounds and potential there? What's your take?
I don't hear and I don't listen to anything, because at the end of the day, it's like what I told, just even yesterday, I was telling Jaren, that's like, look, you're getting ready to go down to the combine. Just go follow your dream, right? Do what you do normally, what you've done since you were in 8th grade. Since you're 8 years old. Have fun, because very few people get the opportunity to go to the combine. Very few people get the opportunity to be pronounced one of the top quarterbacks in the country. Very few people get the opportunity to even be drafted. And so wherever the Lord has a idea of where and a plan for you and where you're going to end up being, then just know that that's where you should be, and it's going to be the best place for you.
It was interesting. We were talking to John, and John's like, I don't care where he gets to. He goes, I care more about the opportunity of where he goes. And we kind of got into Zach going to the Jets when we all had hoped he would have slipped one more to the Niners, right? And where he would have had a better opportunity with better players around him. So, but the hard part about the NFL draft is you don't get to choose, right? So you kind of go and make the best of the moment. And I'm certain that Jaren has that mentality, right?
It doesn't matter. And for him, he just wants to show everybody who he is and understand the fact that he's only really had a couple of years to put really into football. That's something that as the years go on, he's going to get better and better, because he is 110% all about the game of football right now.
And of course, Kalin's referring to the fact that he split time between baseball.
Yeah, he can hit fastball
and football, and was an amazing baseball player. Mike Littlewood told me, hey, if he could see this many pitches a year and bat, he's a high draft pick and can play Major League Baseball. He's a Major League Baseball prospect, and so he kind of split the two for a long time. And then it's just the last couple of years where he said, I'm going full go into this. And so what you're saying is, and you're the closest to him, that his upside potential is a long ways off, and he's already at the level to be able to compete, but his ceiling is really, really high.
High ceiling. At the end of the day, when you think about quarterback, and it's even reaching down into the high school levels, even when Jaren was in high school, he wasn't going around doing all the combines and the the Elite 11 things because he was busy playing baseball, right?
Yeah.
And even kids that are playing right now that he played against, they were all just doing football stuff. And that even leaked into where he had a 2-year hiatus on his mission, didn't do anything. And then he came back and he was splitting time once again. So his entire career, he was only doing football primarily for the last year and a half or so. And so when you talk about the optics of reps and 1,000 hours of mastery, he really is just getting all those things started. And so
sky's the limit.
He's got a high ceiling.
Alabama's quarterback announced today that he's not going to throw on Saturday at the combine. And a lot there are things that guys will and won't do. Is Jaren worried at all that the ankle might keep him from doing everything on Saturday?
He's going to do what he can. You know, at the end of the day, the optics are what they are, and he can't concern himself with that. He just needs to be in a position to do what's best for him and where he can make the best showing for himself. And bear in mind, he has a pro day coming later on at the end of March, which, again, gives more time.
For that ankle to heal up.
And the draft's not till the end of April.
And the draft's not till the end of April. And then you have the individual workouts. And, there's a lot of elements still involved where those that are not really close to the game, who don't really understand the little intricacies that go into it. It's a business that you have to make the right type of business decisions that are ultimately going to help you to be able to put on the best show when you're ready. So.
And it's interesting. People will remember that Zach Wilson's stock took its biggest jump during this whole process on his BYU pro day.
Oh, yeah.
With the throws he was able to make there. So what was the process like for you as a family, for him personally, as he was making the decision, do I enter the NFL draft? Do I come back and play another year in the Big 12? Take us through that process and how the family and Jaren arrived at what he wanted to do.
To be honest with you, it was a really tough decision for him, unbeknownst to me. I didn't know that he had second thoughts about entering the draft. I always thought, even before the year, that this was his last year, and regardless of what the circumstance is, he's going to go ahead and live out his dream,
chase his dream, right?
Yeah, period. And so when he told me, a couple of weeks after, a week or so, two weeks after the Stanford game, I was taken back a little bit. I was like, okay, it was literally the first time I'd heard that he was having second thoughts about entering the draft. And so I do what I always do. I was like, hey, let's take the pros and cons. Let's look at the things that you believe would keep you in school, and let's look at the things that you would believe that would cause you to declare for the draft. And I said, ultimately, this is your choice. I have no skin in the game at all, because it's not my dream, right? I said, this is your dream, son, and I don't care either way. I mean, you come back, that has to be your deal, because then you have to live it. I'm not going to tell you to enter the draft and it doesn't work out the way you want, or I'm not going to tell you to stay and that doesn't work the way that you want. Ultimately, it has to be your decision. And so he took some more time after conversations with Coach Sataki and Coach Roderick, and he put some prayer into it, and he made the decision that was in his best interest for where he believed that he needed to be. And so honestly, I didn't have an opinion one way or another, because I always initially, like I said, thought that it was a foregone conclusion that he would enter the draft. And so,
and I should tell folks, so Kalin and I see each other. Kalin and I see each other during the year all the time, and forever, right? And we get talking, and now Jaren's the starter, and like we're I don't know how many games into his first year starting, and I'm like, hey, what's Jaren thinking about this? And Kalin says, Lane, like, we talk a little bit of football, but hardly ever. Mostly we're talking about kids, family, church, other stuff. He says he gets so much football that when we're together, I just need to be his dad, which I thought was really, really cool, by the way, and I've respected that. And
where did you learn that? Because there's not a manual that comes with being a dad. We figure it out as we go, just like our dads did. But this is a lot of us want to just get in there and say, here, son, I think this is in your best interest. But you've had a very athletic family. We've had a lot of kids come through, and you go through collegiate sports. You know what it's like to be everyone cheering for you at LaVell Edwards Stadium. So where did you get what you just said of, you know what, I'm smart enough or love him enough as his dad to just say, I support you, but this is yours?
You know, and just to be honest, I just I love the game, mind you. I love it. Absolutely love the game. But, you know, I love my kid more, right? And so I did not want all of this to be just about the game, right? Even though I'm so proud of everything that he's accomplished and the things that he's done on the field and the man that he is, but I'm just so much more proud of the fact that he's a good person. And I wanted to relish those things because so many other people, you know, they give praise about all the athletic things, and that's fine. That's great because he's worked hard for that. But at the end of the day, man, he's a phenomenal person. He's an outstanding human being that loves others and puts others before himself. And those are the things that I wanted to make sure that he knew that I was proud of. Like some people would tell me often, I heard it many times, hey, you don't post about your kids, you're not proud of them, you don't put Facebooks. I say, you know what, guys, I'm proud of it. Man, I love it. He worked hard. Darn it, that was expected. Those are expected results. That's the thing. And I always told Jaren, I said, Jaren, this is no different than we've always talked about. We've always known, regardless of what anyone else has thought, that you would be in this position. So I've given you praise many times, and he knows this. He knows. And the people that know us know that, hey, this is just a process of what we always thought was going to happen, regardless of what anyone else thought. And regardless of the circumstances. We always knew this was an ending of the story for his football career.
It's funny because I'd say I'm asking about something, Kalin would say, well, we were talking about this and this and this, but hey, you go to practice. You tell me what's about this. And I'd say, well, he looked really good doing this. He looked really good doing that. He goes, oh, okay. And then we would talk about family, right? So I learned a great lesson from Kalin over these last couple of years about how it really is supposed to be done.
Which of all the plays are you most proud of for Jaren at BYU? And I have an idea there might have two, but I'm thinking, but what do you think?
Yeah, I don't.
There were a few.
Hey, look, just to be honest, I don't know. There was a lot of plays, but I mean, there's
not one that stood out. That, like, for example, not giving up on the Arizona State interception, and it was Algier who made the phenomenal play. But Jaren had to run 60 yards to be there to get back on the ball, and I'm not so sure everyone would have done that. But that was him.
But again, that's expected though. Like I said, in high school, he threw 4 interceptions in the first half of a game. His sophomore or junior year, his senior or junior year, and he was a little upset, and he was taken back from that. And then I just went down and I said a couple of words. I said, look. You know what? That's a process of life. How do you react to that? That's the big thing. How are you going to react to this? Second half, he threw for 400 yards, threw 4 touchdowns, and ran for 2. And then he threw the game-winning touchdown with 10 seconds left to go in the game. I was like, okay, well, that's like the expectation. So what? You throw an interception, you go run it down, right? I mean, if many of you look at the play, Jaren was coming up on the guy at Arizona State. Then he saw Algier ahead of him. Then he slowed down a little bit because you're like, okay, this guy is more physical than me. I'm going to let him go ahead and bang.
Wise move.
It was kind of like, okay, I think something special is about to happen. I'm just going to be around just in case. And so I did appreciate the effort, but that was expected, right? That was expected. If you did something to put your team into this situation, then you need to try to help the team get out of it. Just the bottom line. And then, I mean, obviously he made some throws. He made some throws. I mean, the Baylor touchdown he threw.
Oh, babe, that was
beautiful. The post pattern he threw to Keanu against USC.
Beating Utah was big.
He happened in 12 years, right?
Right.
On 3 broken ribs, mind you, right?
Yeah.
Just gutting it out and playing pretty much flawless in the game that many people didn't give him a chance to. I mean, but again, it's just. He's my son, but man, the guy's got a lot of it factor. I mean, and once things get to a point where he's in a room with a lot of professionals, folks are going to see some stuff, right? So,
and there's a lot of guys that you and I know that can just sling the ball around. Mm-hmm. They can throw the ball around. They're great athletes. There's a lot of those guys. Is the it factor what's going to make the difference between him having a great pro career and an average pro career? Is that the difference maker?
I think it holds a lot to what's going to make a difference in his career. He's a special person that's going to work just relentlessly to be the best. Not going to talk about it, right? He's just going to go out and do it, right? He's not going to have big platforms for discussion. You know, he's going to be a team guy first, but while he'll quietly be doing a lot of stuff that a lot of people don't see. And he's not going to care about the endorsements and all that stuff. He's just going to be the same guy that he's been for 20-something odd years. And so, yeah, the it factor is just, there's different elements to the it factor, right? And he has the athletic it factor, but he also has those other intangibles that go unforeseen to the blind eye, but to those that are really understanding of the game and understands that the NFL game is a different game, okay? You're going to have highs and lows. How are you going to react to the lows? What are you going to do when your chips are down, when you're down on chips, right? What type of reactions are you going to give to your teammates, to the franchise, to the fan base? And how are you going to, persevere through all of that? So,
are you ready to start talking about yourself?
Yeah, I don't.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. We're excited about this. Let's start with your family tree.
Yeah.
You got you and your sons KJ, Jaren, and Kyson all playing football at BYU. Kyson's a freshman receiver.
Yeah.
Another son, Dawson's on the baseball team.
Uh-huh.
Your daughter, Matea, is on the Maple Mountain soccer team.
Uh-huh.
And your wife, Holly, was a former BYU gymnast. So is she the MVP, clearly?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, always. Yeah, she's the one to put
Look at this
We've all always known.
Yeah.
Did you look around and just go, you know what? We are so blessed to have everybody in athletics. And it starts with Holly.
Starts with mom. Holly's she's a great person, first and foremost.
Yeah.
That's when my kids get their kind demeanors from, because she's just a tenderhearted and wonderful woman that puts other people before herself. And my kids have all taken a piece of that into their own personalities. And, she sacrificed a lot over the years. And my kids have seen sacrifice. Therefore, they're willing to sacrifice for others as well. So.
Yeah, but your kids got some stuff from you, too.
Well, physically, these are two thoroughbreds, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and you put that together, and so physically they're going to be great. And then if they're wired right, then you've got something. So, we're talking to Kalin Hall on the Wise Guys. So at 5'8", 195, you rushed for 1,359 yards and 13 touchdowns during the 92 and 93 seasons. Also caught 27 passes for 307 yards and 2 touchdowns. So Dave and I wanted to reminisce about some specifics about the time. So September 5th, 1992. Take a handoff from our guy John Walsh. You run 22 yards for your first Division I touchdown against UTEP. Do you remember that play?
Yeah,
And
I do.
what'd that feel like?
Oh, again, those expectations, right? The same things that I put on my kids, I had on myself. Like, I expected to get to the end zone. I expected to be successful. I expected to make plays, right? That's just one of those mindset things. It was a great feeling, but again, man, I expected to do that. I just needed the opportunity. I just needed the opportunity to run.
You scored a bunch of touchdowns at Dixie, but what was it like at LaVell Edwards Stadium to cross the goal?
It's bigger crowds. The emotion, the energy, right, that you get from the crowd was different, just because there's so many people that were just excited and just 100% into the game and into the Cougar culture itself. Yeah. And so it was a lot of fun. And then, I was playing for people of my faith, and that had a little extra added, emphasis on being successful as well. So.
Yeah, the next week, so it's not even a full week, because you had a Thursday night game the following week against San Diego State. And now it's going to be a showdown. It's you, and we talked about this earlier. Mm-hmm. Yep. It's you and Marshall Falk. Oh, yeah. Head-to-head, running back to running back. You had 15 carries, 143 yards. Of course, San Diego State gave Marshall the ball 35 times for 315 and 3 touchdowns. It was a 45-38 shootout that the Aztecs won. I broadcast that game. Crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Well, first of all, what was it like to go back and forth? But we want to point out that if we're going to per carry average, Marshall only averaged 8.5. You averaged 9.5 in that game. So in my mind, Kalin won the battle. Yeah. But what was that like because that's almost like, and I know it's a team sport, but you're the running back on one team, and you're having a great game, and Marshall's over there, and we all know how great Marshall was.
Oh, absolutely.
But what was that game like?
Look, it was a phenomenal opportunity to play against a Hall of Famer, right? Obviously, being in the space of football, and we didn't have social media back then, but, you knew who the guy was. You knew of his talent. You knew of his NFL potential. You just knew where he was going to end up. And so at the end of the day, I'm like, hey, you know what? I'm going to put myself against him any day of the week. Let's go. It was go time, period. It didn't matter the fact that he was a perennial All-American and any of those elements, because at the end of the day, you got to take, like I said, I have faith in 3. Like I always say about my son, I said, hey, I got faith in 24. Now give me the rock, coach, and, let's see where this comes.
So you're watching Marshall run around, and, you're getting the ball when then the offense goes back out.
Yep.
He has a big run. You go back out, and you're saying, all right, I'm going to get my big run.
Oh, absolutely. I just get blow for blow, right?
like a title fight.
Exactly. But the only thing about it, that I knew Marshall had that 4.3 speed. So, so I was like, man, if I could only get a little more wind pushing down this way here, we'd be all right.
Was it Dewey that was telling us one time, I think it was Dewey that was saying, the first 3 times I took an angle, I'm like, oh, crap, that angle's not going to work with this guy. Like, he just run away from people.
Did you get a chance to shake hands after the game? Do you remember that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, Marshall's a great guy. He's a steward for the game, just a phenomenal person, and he's someone that, I would consider a friend, from a distance, although, we knew each other just through the game and, through mutual friends. Dewey actually played with Marshall at the Colts a few years later, and so it was fun. It was fun to be able to have that camaraderie back and forth. So
there's some times, and Reggie Bush did the same when USC came that one year, where even the home fans who are getting beat, but when you're getting beat by someone who's better, you tend to appreciate and go, you know what? I'm glad I had a chance to watch.
This guy's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
You said that about Reggie when he was there. He didn't end up being, because his career got cut short. But wow,
tip your hat. Tip your hat to greatness.
Yeah.
Great things are things that you should admire and you should, should applaud. It doesn't matter what side of the bleachers that they're on. So.
Let's go to October 10th, 1992. You and another Las Vegan, Jamal Willis, run all over Fresno State. You get 20 for 157 and 2 touchdowns. He goes 30 rushes for 129 and a touchdown on a day where the 2 Las Vegans gave BYU a 36-24 win.
Oh, yeah, I remember. That was a great day. Great day. Jamal's a good friend of mine to this day. We played against each other in high school, youth leagues.
So he was at Bonanza, right?
He's at Bonanza High, and we played against each other in youth leagues also. And so when
how old were you when you guys first knew each other?
Probably 10 years old.
Like Pop Warner, playing Pop Warner?
It was 10.
And then they ended together at BYU. How cool is that? That's pretty fun.
Absolutely. And I think, the paradigm of the offense kind of changed a little bit with Jamal and I. I think that Coach Chow and Reynolds and Coach Ramage, they kind of saw that to incorporate, dynamic running with the passing game could help us to win some games when it comes down to, being gritty and tough and being able to chomp down some of those yards where the passing game maybe was getting kind of bottled up a little bit because of the athletic deficiency, right, out there on the outside. And so I think that opened up their eyes. And Ronnie Jenkins came, McKenzie came. So we had some guys that came in after that ultimately, I think, helped to navigate the game into another level at BYU. So
we just had Ronnie on a couple weeks ago. It was really fun to have Ronnie back.
Yeah.
So October 31st, 1992, now you get 22 carries, 117 yards, 2 touchdowns. It's a 30-17 win over then number 14 Penn State.
Yeah.
I remember that. This is a big win. Penn State not only ranked that year, but a historic program. Was that a memorable one for you?
Yeah. I mean, look. Joe Pa and I grew up before I moved to Vegas, I grew up in Michigan. And so that's Big Ten country.
Right.
Penn State's just right there in that region. And so it was a big game for me because ultimately that was a program that was storied. And the history behind Penn State was such that ultimately, you knew that they always had NFL guys. They were always playing on the big games at the national championships or whatever it may be. They're always sending guys into the NFL, and so it was huge. The history, and they had guys. O.J. McDuffie on that team, Grant Branch. They had dudes on that team. Kerry Collins, so you already knew.
They had some guys.
You already knew. These guys are NFL guys. You're like, you know what? Hey, we can play just as good, but we just out here in the Midwest, so let's go. It was go time again.
In those kind of games, and in that one particularly, where they can't stop you, and they're out here, and it's the elevation and the heat. I don't even know, but for whatever reason, when BYU's offense is on the field, you're going to run all over them that day. Not many guys did that. Did you sense the surprise in their eyes, or what?
Oh man, you know what? Just being competitive, right? And like playing in the JC ranks, I play with guys and against guys from all over the country.
Right.
And so you get to know like competitors, fierce competitors. And these guys were, all-stars, and could have been considered 5-star guys, all going to Penn State and whatnot. The storied history behind that. But on the field, it's like these guys, like, what is going on? We can't stop these guys, man. This like, it was like they were in awe, because it's like, this should not be happening, right? We're Penn State, they're BYU, and like, how dare they just march this ball up and down the field on us? Like, but we did. And it was because I think ultimately we had respect for the program, but not for the individual, because they put their pants on the same way we did. Yeah. At least that's the way I looked at it. I was like, hey, man, this is go time. Like, they strap their shoes on the same way that we do. So the only thing that's different is the history, right? So
yeah, I remember. So, and I'm a few years before you, right? But we had this mentality that we don't care whether it's Ohio State or Penn State or who it is. We're going to show these boys how offense is played. Yeah. Like, we just always felt like we had the advantage offensively, and you guys were an offensive juggernaut as well. Yeah. Did you feel like you had that mentality too? Like, hey, we're going to it doesn't matter where they're from. We will teach them how you move the football and throw it and run it and do all of that, because we know offense better than anybody.
Absolutely. I mean, we really believed that it didn't matter who we played against. We could move the ball if we put ourselves in the right position, if we executed, and if we played with, violent football, at the point of attack. And that was always the point. If we would play violent and we were crafty in our play calling like we always were, and if we executed that, we believed that we could score on just about anybody. So,
Kalin Hall's on the Wise Guys with us tonight. During your 2 seasons, you played in 22 games, 17 starts. You faced Notre Dame twice, UCLA twice, Penn State, and Ohio State. How big of a deal was it to play those schools, and contrast it with this fall when BYU is going to play 10 P5s?
Yeah. Oh, so, I mean, you always want to play against what is considered the best, right? If you are a competitor, you always want to play against the best. And we had an opportunity to play some really storied programs, but, they were just sprinkled in a little bit, a couple this year, a couple that year. Now, when you take that and you say that, and it's kind of like when people ask me about, like, the last couple of years with Jaren, I'm like, look, it's arguably one of the most difficult schedules that the BYU's ever played. You don't even have
to argue it. Yeah. It's like Jaren's played against more P5 schools than any BYU quarterback in history. Yeah. End of story.
Yeah. And so my point with that was that, when you're playing against all that NFL talent, then you get to gauge yourself. Because it's not just the P5, it's all the NFL talent that's on those teams. Now you fast forward that to, we had 5 opportunities to play against a lot of NFL talent, like talent that was throughout the program, whether it's a freshman that's not playing or a senior. In the program, it's a lot of NFL talent. Now, what you're going to see here, these things, starting next year, it's going to be an awful lot of NFL talent that BYU is going to be playing against. It's going to be tough, okay? It's going to be really tough. And people have to understand that it's not about the program, okay? It's not. It's about the NFL talent that you're playing against. Because that NFL talent can be at, Liberty or whatever. But it's all about that NFL talent that's on those programs. And in the Big 12, man, it's going to be an awful lot of offensive NFL talent.
That's a great offensive league. And expectations, you don't have to put a number on games. We've already got a whole thing where we have to do the over under and all that. So we've had to prognosticate and go on record, but you don't need to do that. Just your feeling about this first year in the Big 12. Can BYU compete? Can they be in the middle of the pack? Like, what's your thought on entering? It would sure help if they had a senior quarterback coming back, but
they went and got another one.
But they went and got a guy that has played against P5s his entire career, so hopefully he can engineer the offense and be poised. What's your thought on all of
that? Man, what I believe is what Kalani went out and did on his defensive side of the ball has incrementally increased the success ratio of what the win-loss ratio is going to be this next season. Bottom line. Absolutely love what he did. We're going to see the benefits of that immediately. And so seeing the benefits of that immediately, then we take X amount of those games and put them over here at LaVell Edwards Stadium.
It's not easy to play there, is it?
It's going to be different now, okay? It's going to be some wins that folks didn't think we were supposed to get, and we're going to get them. And so wins, loss, I don't know, but what I do know is there's going to be a lot of surprise, especially when folks come over here to LaVell Edwards Stadium. it's going to be some folks surprised.
Yeah, just like Miami was surprised.
Yeah, they were a bit surprised, weren't they? You are the new head football coach at Maple Mountain High School. Lavelle was a high school coach before he came, and your experience with him. As you are about to embark on this, how much will you rely on the kind of coach Lavelle was for you to get the job done?
So obviously you remember all of the quality moments, right, that Coach Lavelle had passed along to you, right, just through his teaching, through his actions, right. He wasn't a man of many words, but the things that he did embraced a lot of excellent qualities that men need to be when they're leading other young men. Yeah. And so from that perspective, I'm going to take a lot of that, right? I'm going to try to lead by example. I'm going to lead with passion and emotion. And emotions are different for everybody. Coach Lavelle's emotions were emotions of feeling, right? Because you knew that he loved you and cared for you. And so that's kind of what I'm trying to emulate, is the fact that, you know what, I'm doing this appointment. It's not a job. It's an appointment, right? This appointment to be the coach of my community high school, to be able to help to embrace better for the young men, right? And so you can only do that by showing them that you care, because the more that they know you care, the more they'll be willing to share their true emotions with you. And so that's really what I'm trying to embrace with the young people in my community, is that it's more than about wins and losses. It's about helping each of you to become better men. And that's real talk. And that comes from opening the doors for people at your school, from watching the types of things you say, from watching the things you do. When you're in the dark, it should be the same as when you're in the light. You know, making sure these young men know that every move you make is a scaled event, right? And that scaled event should be doing things of a positive nature. And accountability has to be there as well. Unfortunately, today, a lot of elements of accountability have gone out the door.
Amen.
And that's not with me. And because I told the principal, I said, hey, be careful what you wish for, because for me personally, it's accountability, right? I'm not a dictator. I don't get down like that, but I'm going to ask you to be accountable for your actions always. And I'm going to ask you to work to exhaustion always. And I'm going to ask you to be the type of person that you say you are always. And those things are not to say that, oh, you're an aspiring Division I athlete. It's not about that. It's about aspiring to be a Division I person, okay? If you can be that every day, or strive to be that, where you fall short, it's going to be pretty good.
You know, and it's a big, I think being a high school football coach is a calling. It's, you know, we all remember our high school football coach, and high school football coaches can have a huge impact on young men. Yeah. And parents need to remember that most of their kids are not even going to play Division I football, right?
That's right.
That's a big mantle to take on, to be that guy that for however long you're in that role, those kids look up to you, you shape their lives, you make them really have a big role in who they become down the road. Have you thought about all that and the weight of that mantle as a high school football coach?
You know, to be honest, I haven't. It doesn't, I don't know. I've been coaching high school kids for a very long time.
Right.
And I've never coached my own kids in high school.
Right.
That's right. I forgot about that.
And you waited till they're all gone.
Waited till they're all, I've always coached, but I coached at other schools while my kids played at the local school. And so I've always given of myself. And I think in this position, I can do it the way I believe that it should be done. Not to say it's the right way, but it's just the way that I believe that it should be done. And when I speak to people, for whatever reason, you know, some or many parents think that I have some secret formula, right? Because all 4 of my sons ended up going to Division I, right? And so I'm like, well, it's no secret formula. You know, it's hard work, it's dedication, it's it's prescribed chaos at times. And it's diligence in doing the task on a daily basis. It's kind of like with Michael Jordan. He said that quote, "Today I'll do what others won't, so tomorrow I can have what others can't." And I keep saying it to my kids, do the things when everybody else is sleeping. Do the extra work. Do the extra training. Put in all the extra things that you know you probably should do, but other people aren't going to do. Because if you can do those things, you can be an excellent high school player. Now, to go to the next level, I mean, that takes some other things.
You also have to have good genetics to make it to the next level.
Yeah, it takes, that's
and your mom and dad,
things.
if they're both freakish athletes, that helps.
That helps.
Which this mom and dad are, right? That helps. But if you're just a freakish athlete, you don't have all those other things, you don't have a chance. And And you got to put those two together. So
are you prepared?
Great stuff.
Are you prepared to answer the phone on a Friday night at 11 o'clock from Jaren that says, "Dad, Why are you running the ball on third down?
Can he second guess?
And I'll tell him the same thing. Hey, mind your business. I'll tell him.
Hey, I let you play, and we just talked about family stuff. Don't be calling me and tell me what to do about
Mind
football.
your business. He already know. My kids know. I don't even care.
I love it.
Yeah.
All right, let's hit up 5 questions
Yeah,
and
you
we'll
ready
get
for
you
your
out of
5
here.
questions?
Yeah.
All right.
Let's go.
Favorite sports movie?
Oh, remember the Titans.
See, those are the two. Those are our two most common of all the. And it's funny because even we have non-sports people on. We have musicians and astronauts, but we still ask them for their favorite sports movie. And those two, Remember the Titans, and then Sione's Rudy are the two biggies.
So, but Remember the Titans has very little to do with football, though.
That's true.
That's kind of really the point for me. I mean, that's my reason is probably a lot different than a lot of folk.
Yeah.
But,
So no, that's awesome. I love that. I love that show. Favorite singer or band?
Oh man, Elvis Presley, my favorite singer.
So you're going old school.
We had an Elvis not long ago.
Yeah, who was it?
I don't know, was it Justin Enna? Was it Enna?
Yeah, I think Justin Ennis said.
I love Elvis. Absolutely love him.
Favorite breakfast cereal?
Oh man, peanut butter Captain Crunch, I would say.
We've had a few of those.
Yeah.
He's just plain Captain Crunch, which I don't understand. But.
So you can imagine the shock on the show when Danny Ainge said shredded wheat.
And then we go, "Are you serious?" And he goes, "Well, the kind that has the
frosting on
it." But
and we put some berries in there.
Danny had some heart problems, and so I know that his dear wife is like keeping him on the straight and narrow.
Okay.
So
that's all right.
He's like, my favorite or what I actually get to eat? And then he changed. So, favorite BYU moment. And it doesn't have to be on the field. It can be any BYU moment.
Oh man. Honestly, and it's a personal one. It's when Jaren had a long run against Baylor, had a touchdown run, and then Kalani was on the sideline just going crazy. And it was, for me, that was one of the moments that showed like the true emotions, right, of Coach Sataki and the history of excitement and what the game is really supposed to be about. So
that's fun.
Jaren ran that 40 in like 4 something, and Kalani was about 8.5.
That's true.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah.
So we're talking about Jaren. So what's the favorite attribute? And I'm sure you have one for each of the kids, and they have a lot. If you could pick out one about Jaren, what would be one where you're like, oh, this just really stands out to me. I love that about Jaren.
Consistency. His consistency of who he is. He's pretty much has been the same young person his entire life, and he doesn't deviate regardless of circumstance. So.
Yeah, we've had a lot of fun. We've had a lot of fun with him and great experiences with him. It's been fun for us to be close to him, to cover him, and
give him our best for Saturday and beyond.
We'll be rooting him on. We'll be helping cover the pro day, and we're wishing him the best. We wish you the very best in this new role as the head coach.
Who does Maple Mountain open with?
Payson.
The Lions?
Oh,
these aren't the same Lions as when we were kids.
No,
these guys are big.
Oh yeah,
that'll be something.
Be a good opener.
That'll be great.
Maple
Mountain.
We'll be
Payson.
watching Maple Mountain with great interest this fall, knowing that you're there. So we're so grateful that you would come on with us and share some time with us.
Thank you anytime. I appreciate it. Thank you guys.
The great Kalin Hall. We will cut you free and get ready for the big week. Hey, are you going to Indianapolis?
I'm not.
Okay.
I got too much going on. So.
Yeah, it's the life of a coach.
That's right. All right.
Thank you.
See you guys.
Kalin Hall.